Aloha, everybody. Welcome back to the Wall Street Coach. My name is Ann Curtin, and I am a performance coach for traders and executives. I'm really excited today to have Jeff Holden here. Of course, Jeff, everybody knows, is at SMB Capital. Jeff has been a trader at SMB for 4 years. And in addition to trading, Jeff has been very passionate about recruiting the best of the best and developing top talent on the desk. He stepped into the role of lead head of recruiting. I'm not sure how long ago, but it's probably been a while. Is that right, Jeff? Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm very excited. We had the opportunity to meet at Traders for a Cause in Las Vegas, which was a lot of fun. We had a very nice lunch. For you, it was so nice of you to bring Bella and I a gift. And he loved I think you gave him the chocolates, and he loved those. So I can't say he's the only one on the desk that ate them, though. They quickly, as food does on our desk, it quickly gets consumed by the masses. So
That's fast.
it's fun. I've been fortunate to be a part of SMB for about I think this is my 6th year, maybe 7th year.
Wow.
Let's see, our daughter I have younger kids. And so when we started having kids, that's when I noticed, not necessarily my role changing because I'm still just a trader, but I think something within me kind of recognized me thinking a little bit more about how to help more than just myself as a trader, but how to really grow and challenge others. And so I don't really know how long I've formally been in a trader development role, but each year I feel very lucky to be able to work with some really, really smart young kids and really, really smart developing traders. And so I see my efforts and my time towards that role expanding each year. It's probably expanded consecutively 3 or 4 years in a row now.
Wow.
We also run, so for the desk, we have our trading desk, which is where most of our focus goes. But because we were forced to do everything at scale during COVID, all of our training and all of our development needed to occur in a way that we could scale globally. We had traders who went to different parts of the world. Some went to Switzerland, somewhere in South Africa. We had a couple that were down in Australia. So we had to be able to reach everybody very, very quickly and develop our traders across the globe. And so we kind of created this system to be able to do it at scale. We started talking about it a little when people would come in and visit the office. Whenever people are in New York, we invite them to come in and see us, which is fun. But we started to do it, and people said, "Hey, I really want in on these meetings. I really want to sit in on this stuff." And so, there's this other arm of what SMB does, and it's SMB training, which is more on the development side. And all we do is just release the things that we use internally to hopefully help retail traders. And I hate the term retail traders. We can get into that in a minute, but we use the term independent traders because I'm sorry, the market's just closed. I was an independent trader before joining SMB. A lot of us started as independent traders. There's just this weird idea that retail implies unsophisticated, but I haven't seen that to be the case at all. I've actually seen some of the most sophisticated traders that I know outside of the pro trading space are really, really good retail traders. And so we use the term on our desk of independent traders, not retail.
That's great. That's beautiful.
And there's developing independent traders, and they're true independent traders. And then we get to compete in the space called pro traders. It's different than prop traders. Prop traders kind of get a bad rap now because there are a bunch of these funding firms that call themselves prop firms, and they might be prop firms. I don't know that much about them, but we view ourselves as professional traders, and that's what our job is. And our main focus is to develop and be elite intraday discretionary traders. And so, we do have a quantitative arm, but mostly what we try to do are become elite level intraday discretionary traders.
And that training program, is that only for those who you are curating within the organization, or is that training available to any trader that would want to participate?
Yeah, it's because of the scalability of it, we actually have an ability for people to take our training. But the best thing to do is like, I think it's called inside access.
Mhm.
And that's how we start when we bring somebody out of the desk, that's really what we ask them to do first. We do ask them to take some of the development programs that are the same development programs that are available publicly. But we want them to get a sense for the way professional traders interact with each other, the way professional traders develop. And so we have this series of meetings that then got this catchy title called Inside Access, but it's really just our trader development process. And so I think there are like, 12 meetings a week or maybe a little bit more than that. And they occur every single week. And it's not just me, it's other people on the desk that specialize in different skills that are all teaching and sharing. And we just use it for our developing traders. And we're seeming to get a good response from people in the independent trading space who really want someone to connect with
Yeah.
and really want to be able to taught the way that we think as professional traders.
Yeah, it's so fantastic and it's such a contribution because I feel there's so many traders that are starved for that and the availability of a really professional level collective is few and far between.
Yeah, I don't think we realized what it was when we started. We just
Yeah.
kind of, this is what we did internally, and
Yeah.
people really seem to like it. And now that we've expanded it, people are seeming to have a good experience. So it's a
That's
lot of
great.
fun to see people develop. I mean, I view my role, if I have a role that
Mhm.
could be defined at all, it would be as being the guy who has to get the immediate impact.
Yeah.
I can't work with somebody over 6 months or a year or 2 years and hope they get better. That just isn't immediate enough on our desk. We talk about our traders needing to have a sense of urgency
Yep.
about what they do, and we have to have a sense of urgency about developing traders. And so that's a huge component for us is making sure that everything we're doing is going to have an immediate impact on people's ultimately trading. And trading's a vague term. We break it down into three different things. There's the you being ready
Hmm.
phase of trading. So you coming to the market well rested. I'm actually focusing on nutrition this year, making sure you get the right nutrition. I have my brother's he owns a CrossFit gym and he has a nutrition business that he runs
Right.
like online or whatever. And so he finally got me to sign up for it. And so I've been really focused on my nutrition for this quarter.
Wow.
But that's a part of showing up to the market ready every day. Um, there's the idea generation component, which is
Hmm.
really important. You have to be coming up with good ideas as a trader every day. So you have to show up to the market. You have to be ready to be a trader today. You have to generate really good, high quality ideas. And that's something that there's a big difference between coming up with an idea of what might happen and then identifying the left side of the chart, what's happened up to that point, and then the entry point, which is totally different, and then what you think might happen on the right side of the chart. What would really make sense on the right side of the chart for this trade to work, which gets us into the third kind of core principle that we work on with developing traders, which is your dots have to be in the right places. And ideally you want the right color dots in the right places. If you
Right.
have the red at the bottom and the green at the top, that's not usually a good thing, but you want your dots in the right places. And so the three core things that we work on every day, and kind of overlays everything we do is you being ready for the market, you being ready to be a trader today. Your idea generation being really high quality, and then your dots in the right places. So
Yeah.
those are
Yeah.
the three things, and then that's kind of all wrapped up into what we do.
Did you know that elite traders choose Opal for their best in class fee structure, their locate inventory, and their entire bespoke nature? If you want to learn more about Opal securities and maximize your trading business, then please reach out to me and I can make a personal introduction. Do you feel that as it's evolved from the being a trader into a leader and developing the traders, that there's one particular lesson that stands out either for yourself as a trader or in what you see with the traders you're developing? Is there one particular lesson that now is just so obvious to you that perhaps wasn't so clear when it all began?
I don't say this lightly, but if you're asking me for one, um, I believe people are more capable than they even believe. I believe capable people are capable of more success than even they're typically able to conceive.
Yeah.
The challenge is you have to look at the timeline.
Mhm.
You have to look at the timeline of I need to have an immediate impact now, and then I have to sustain that immediate impact and that growth over a period of time.
Yeah.
Like it's really easy to strive for that immediate impact, and if you don't get it, you start to go down a different path,
Yeah.
and you start to look for solutions in places that don't really matter that much. And so I think people are really capable of much more than a lot of times they even believe.
Mhm.
Um, I've just seen it so many times with traders coming in and they struggle and they struggle. And when you take a look at what they're actually doing, they're trying to, we call it reinvent the wheel every single, 6 month period or
Right.
3 month period or something like that. Or they're looking for, the golden goose or whatever, the golden solution, right? They're trying to like figure, oh, this one thing's going to help me. And it's like most of the time, if you just do the basics really, really well, you're
Yeah.
going to start to compound in your growth. And if you compound in your growth, then all of a sudden you're going to catch that, development curve in the right spot. And the opportunity is going to come and really fall into your lap quite often.
One of the things your bio speaks to is that you live by the principle when you see it, swing the bat hard. So share a time where you applied that for yourself in your trading and just, what that outcome was for you.
Yeah, I mean, best trades is something I love talking about. Anytime we're talking about things, it's best trades. It puts a smile on your face. We're actually today in our trader development meeting at 11 o'clock. That's part of that like inside access thing. We were talking about overextensions as a setup, right? So we're breaking it down into all these different setups, and there are 10 really setups that we look at on the desk for the most part. Um, we were talking about overextensions and the overextension from SMCI last year. We talked about we were talking about breakouts earlier in the week. So we talked about the 400 break earlier in the week. And so that was a really, really good trade in SMCI when it had the news catalyst. This was about a year ago now. It had the news catalyst, plus the 400 break, plus insane volume, plus it occurred on a Friday, like basically opened kind of close to the lows, closed at the highs. You had options, you had everything you wanted. You had this huge volatility explosion. Like it had follow through the next couple of days. Like that was a great trade, right? That was so much fun. You had to put the risk on for that. Um, we weren't talking about that trade today, but today we were talking about the overextension. I think it was like the 17th or something like that. I don't remember. Ironically, none of us could remember the date, but we could recall the chart very, very vividly. We could tell you exactly what it felt like at every point in the trade of I was pretty sized in this moment. All right, it made the turn. I kind of wondered if that was really the turn. It got below VWAP. It did something that we teach called the fashionably late trade, where
Mhm.
the 9 EMA crosses below VWAP. You get a quick little like pop, and it looks like maybe for a second, like it's going to catch and start to go higher. And as soon as it doesn't, everybody knows that's the spot where you have to be very aggressive. You know exactly where your defined stop is, a third the distance from the cross to the high. Like you know everything about that trade and it just hits. And you know that in that situation, you have to put the risk on because you know that the probabilities at that point are very good. And your risk reward is insane. And so you have to put the risk on in that trade. Now, getting to that spot, though, you have to be prepared for that. You have to show up ready to put the risk on that day. You have to be communicating with others. You have to be thinking about the prior times that you traded those overextensions and talking through. I remember in an overextension in the prior year, I didn't hold some to the close. Right. That was a big mistake. I really wish I would have said, all right, 50% of my position I'm holding till the close. And then I'll try and trade around it, and that'll be my core. And so that gave me something specific to work on. And so even as that stock was doing what it was doing, and we'd swung the bat hard, and everything was happening, and everything was doing exactly what it was. we weren't really thinking about that. And the people that were kind of took themselves out of the game a little bit. We were more, a lot of us, at least the people that I trade with, were talking about what are the specific things that we're working on in that trade. And for me, it was making sure I hold a core at least to the close. That
Yeah.
was I need to hold a core to the close. I had really good positioning. I knew exactly what I wanted. And so, really focusing on that is a really important thing.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just having that mindset of,
Mhm.
within this one specific trade, this is what I'm focused on.
That's awesome. It's such a good reminder, I think, for that's what it's all about is just learning from every experience, every trade to take it with you into the
Yeah,
next.
I wish I didn't have to make so many mistakes sometimes, but those are things that they're just a part of trading. I think you have
Be
to
human.
really be comfortable with the fact that you're going to make way more mistakes than you think,
Yeah.
but as long as you keep learning from them, you'll be okay.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think most new traders, anyway, misunderstand about what it takes to succeed in trading? And then the second part is in a firm such as SMB.
Yeah, let's see. I guess I'll challenge that question with what do you define as a new trader? Are we talking somebody
Yeah.
just starting out? Are we talking somebody a year in? Like
Let's
at what
let's
point
say
of the development
less
curve?
than 3 years.
Less than 3 years. Okay. So that's also a tough one because we have some people that have struggled for 3 years and then all of a sudden they started basically doing the right things in the
Uh,
right way consistently. And a lot of times that comes from the community that they're in. I
yeah.
think a lot of people expect that you'll just learn from those around you,
Mm,
or you're reaching out to people that you don't really develop close relationships with. You don't actually get enough touch points. Mentoring touch points is what we call it. On our desk, we strive for 50 a week for
wow.
every trader.
Mhm.
For every developing trader, anybody
Yeah.
that's less than 3 years, pretty much, or really less than a year, gets about 50 a week. That's a
Wow.
lot of touch points where, it's not just me, it's other people on the desk that are interacting with them, helping them learn things, helping them do things the right way. 50 plus touch points is a lot.
Mhm.
I don't think you necessarily need that many as an independent trader, particularly as a new trader. I think it's
Mhm.
great if you can get it, but I talk with or have interacted with new traders who get maybe two, to a day. And so it's like 10 versus 50. Like, you really want to find a community of people that you can interact with and share ideas with. You want to find an environment that you can get immediate and critical feedback from, not like every week, but hey, I just put this trade on. Were you watching that trade? Hey, I'm thinking about this trade. What was happening there? So I think that community element is a little bit undervalued for newer traders.
Yeah.
I know when I started, I built my trading community simply by reaching out to people on X and saying like I guess it was Twitter then, but X now, and just saying like, hey, listen, let me learn everything about you, and that was really important to me. It's
And
it's how
how
I
how
wound up
did
testing
they
people.
respond to you?
A lot of them probably never like sent me messages back at all,
Mhm. But you
but
but
that's
you
okay.
did
Like
but you got some responses.
I got enough. Yeah. I mean,
You got
it wasn't
enough.
reaching out to everybody. It was
Right.
very selective about if I
Yes.
saw somebody do something interesting, I would reach out. And if I really saw them do something interesting again, I'd reach out again and kind of not stop until they were like ready. And like, that's the whole thing. Like if you want to be good at this, you have to be hungry and you have to be willing to go for it. And, you know, but being hungry and going for it are different than being hungry and going for it in the right community.
Yeah. Yep. I think the community is also very undervalued and probably the game changer for those who can get to 3 years and then pop and
Yeah.
finally make it.
And yeah, and like I said earlier, I don't really think it took me a little bit of time. I mean, I gave myself a year when I started,
Okay.
and I really struggled for the first 6 or 8 months because I wasn't reaching out because I was thinking I had trades with edge, and I
Hmm.
was thinking, oh, I'm going to find an edge and I'll be perfectly fine, and I wasn't. I was talking to myself too much. I wasn't talking to other traders. I
Wow.
wasn't sharing what my edge was. I was, doing my daily report cards or what I call, what we now call daily report cards. I was doing those every day, and I would write things in those that I was like, oh, this is edge. And now, if I look back at them, I'm like, I had no idea what edge was, and it would be this like, 5-page document about what my edge in the market is and why it exists and like all that stuff. And now like my belief is if you can't say what your edge is in one sentence, like you have to be really, really precise with what your edge actually is in that
Mhm.
situation. And you want to be able to condense it down to basically one sentence.
Yeah, it's a great point. All right, so great traders from average traders. If somebody's listening to this conversation and really feels they're average and wants to be one of the great traders, at least for themselves, what are the qualities they need to develop in addition to community, which you've really stressed, and I'm happy, really happy you did.
Well, why? I mean, the first question is why do they want to be a great trader?
Hmm.
I mean, the reality of this is we are very fortunate to do what we do. All of us are to participate in markets. We have access to markets now 24 hours a day. We're at a beautiful point in history where, I can get the tape I can read the tape on my phone of any stock pretty much anywhere in the world at any point
Yeah.
of any day, and crypto and futures and everything else too. We don't trade FX, but crypto and futures for sure. You know, for the people that are wanting to take the next step, you have to ask yourself why do you want to take that next step? And I think having clarity about why you want to take that next step is really important. It kind of becomes a big thing. Maybe it's because you want to prove to yourself that you can be an intraday trader. Maybe it's because you want the P&L associated with it. Maybe it's because you want the recognition, whether internally or externally, that comes with being an elite level trader. Maybe that's what you want, but don't go at it for the wrong reason. Understand why you want it, sort of. And it doesn't take much. Usually, it takes some real honesty with yourself of this is why I want it. And then that becomes a rallying cry every time you make a mistake. And we talked about, I mean, shoot, just probably this week, there are 15 mistakes that I'm going to have to like work through, and I'll probably batch them down into like, there was actually one or two things out of those 15 that really matter
Yeah.
that I want to work on and correct. And so I know why I want to get better here.
Yeah.
I know exactly why I want to get better here this year. Um, I'm able to work with a new team and it's a team of young developing traders, and I want to get better because me getting better helps our team get better. That's why I want to get better this year. That's
Yeah.
it, period. Like I know exactly why I want to get better this year. So if I'm sitting there and making a mistake, a trading mistake,
Mm.
and not learning from it and not figuring out, not being really honest with myself about why I made it in the first place, and
Yeah.
then most importantly, not learning from it, I'm really hurting my team more than
Mm.
more than just tolerating the mistake. So I don't want to let that group down. And I really want to, kind of see how good we can be together this year. So I have to play my position. I have to play my role.
Yeah. Simon Sinek's amazing talk is really know your why. And that talk is so inspiring, but it's again just so important even here as a trader. Like, and I think there are a lot of traders that perhaps get a little bit down that path without being really clear with their why. And so it's a great reminder, Jeff. I'm really
Yeah,
glad
I
you
mean,
spoke to that.
yeah, I started out trading for the wrong reason, I'll be honest. I mean, I started out trading because somebody I knew was a trader and he looked like he was having success. And so I was like, I could probably do that too.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, more specifically, I had a professor who was a trader and he was an old guy, and he was like telling me how much he made trading bonds off of his credit card. That was his story. I think he said he took $1,000 of credit card debt and turned it into 120K or something like that in profits trading bonds. And he was telling stories about like, you know, calling in between class, like, I took his class way after he had done this, but he was, you could see that twinkle in his eye talking about it too. He was like remembering the days of like he would call his broker between classes to get quotes. And I'm thinking to myself, like, man, I'm watching the tape like pretty much all day. Like I couldn't imagine like going to teach a class and then coming back 2 hours later and calling my broker to figure out what position I had, like how my positions are doing and stuff like that. So I figured if he could do it, I could figure something out. And so I probably got into it for the wrong reasons, but
Mm.
very quickly recognized the opportunity that trading provides everybody. And then started to gravitate towards the right reasons for what I do. And those reasons evolve pretty much every year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or at least they have for me. And
Yeah.
they certainly, when I understand, when I'm clear about why I'm doing what I'm doing, it turns into something special usually.
Yeah, for sure.
I haven't seen that talk though. I'll have to check. Is it like a TED talk or something?
It
That
is.
Simon.
I'll
Okay, I've
send it
never seen it.
over. But
Somebody told me his books are good too. I haven't read any of his
they
books.
are. But that talk in literally 16 minutes,
Yeah,
just you just walk away from it with just this powerful aha of like, of course, it's such common sense. And
yeah,
yet, what do they say? Common sense is not that common.
yeah,
But I think even for those listening to us now, that clarity of note there, why I don't hear talked about enough. And I think it's
yeah.
just a really good reminder to get clear on that because it does, especially in the hard times, it will give that fuel, like you
Yeah.
said, to keep going.
Yeah.
Because
And
it's,
I'll challenge that just with the hard times because I honestly
yeah,
think it's almost worse in the good times because when you're trading when you're seeing things well and in particular, and I hate the term trading well because I think that's an overused term. I don't, I think it's when you're seeing an opportunity very well and you're in that moment, you have to, just like we talked about with the SMCI trade on both the long and then the short side, you have to ground yourself in that moment because the numbers really don't matter. The numbers are a nice measuring thing, but your performance matters in that moment and it matters every day. It matters on the A plus opportunities and it matters on the B opportunities. And the B opportunities we call them baseline. So it's
mhm,
baseline plus A plus equals your career, right? And you have to build a really good baseline first of baseline trades, and then that makes it a lot easier to push it in the A plus opportunities. But the baseline plus A plus equals your trading career. So I think you have to recognize how the baseline does feel like a lot of times that I have to grind it out, and you do need your why for that baseline. But don't ever underestimate how much harder it is in an A plus opportunity if you don't have your why to either underperform or let the opportunity go completely in your favor and then forget why you're in the trade and then let it come again. Like all those
that's
things
the
are
point.
just the emotions get amplified so much more as the opportunity increases. And so I
Yes.
think I think everybody looks at the down times and says you have to drag yourself through, but the up times are
Yeah.
a different sort of challenge, but just as challenging.
Yeah, it's one of the things that uh, John Coates, kind of taught me. It was just how physiologically everything changes when in the midst of a winning streak, and how you will become physiological in that energy of feeling like a master of the universe and not be able to see that you have suddenly turned into that.
We're all just fortunate to be participants. That's all.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
for
all it is.
sure.
We're all just fortunate to be participants. I mean, so yeah.
It's a great point. So, of course, we're going to talk a little bit about emotions now. So, trading requires at least being, I would say, I don't really say mastering emotions, but I like to say being very conscious and aware of emotions under pressure. So, is there kind of one psychological technique or particular practice you yourself have and or advocate to the traders to keep neutral when things are going well and of course when they're not?
Yeah, we did a video with Dr. Steenbarger. So in that Inside Access, we'll have special guests and we'll have themes over the course of the week. And we had an emotional awareness week. And it was really interesting for me because the emotional awareness week, we just got done with setup week this week. It's the whatever the fourth week of January. So um, Jan week 4. So we did a setup week this week, and last year we did emotional awareness week. And what was so fascinating was we actually had traders from our community share their emotions while they were in a trade, right? What were they feeling before? What were they feeling during? What were they feeling as the trade was playing out? And we used a very specific technique to do that, to identify the emotions and give language, vocabulary, to those emotions. And we had Dr. Steenbarger in because Dr. Steenbarger is a very well-known performance coach to work with some of the best trading firms in the world, and the intraday space he's worked with us. And he was fascinated because he was like, I don't know that many other people are doing it this way. And it was just sort of this idea that we had being traders, we understand like our emotions can bounce all over the place. And I think a lot of people are saying keep them level. I don't know many of the traders on the desk that are, I mean, there's some that are very level-headed, but even sitting next to them and knowing them, they have their emotions that bounce all over the place all the time, just like anybody else. I think that raw human element is a part of what makes trading so special. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I actually think it's a great thing. I think it helps us excel in our performance. And so the key was to be able to go anywhere on this emotional grid that we were using. And you can, I'll try and have Kurt send you the link or something like that, so you can post the YouTube video that we wound up putting out there in the comments. But essentially you have this grid, and this grid captures not all the emotions you could feel, but a good portion of them. The reality is, though, there's a center point through that entire grid, and or I call it a bullseye, essentially through the middle of that grid. And our goal as traders is to be able to experience any of those emotions on the edges of that grid or anywhere contained in that grid, but then gravitate back towards that bullseye. And that bullseye is opportunity focus. That's all, period. No matter what's happening, if you can bring yourself back to opportunity focus, that's it. And, there are some techniques Dr. Steenbarger went into. I'm sure you would have techniques as well. I mean, all of us develop a little, I guess it's a technique, but, a lot of it is just the narrative that you're talking to yourself. And I find even just, okay, we need to get back to the opportunity here. It brings you right back into that. And I think it's, the emotions are something that I've struggled to, I think you may not like this, and I apologize for the bluntness of this comment, but I think most people need to focus on their trading edge first. And then after they have trading edge, then you should start to work on your trading emotions. I think your emotions, if I told you, I'm going to have you play a game, I'm going to tell you what winning is, I'm going to tell you what losing is, but I'm not going to tell you any of the rules. My guess is your emotions would be all over that grid, right? You wouldn't really understand all of that stuff. Your emotions would be all over the place. And it'd be really hard to get back to that opportunity focus.
For sure.
The scary thing about trading is that emotional grid is not two-dimensional. It's actually three-dimensional, because if you come in not prepared, if you come in worried about a prior trade, if you come in thinking about your P&L and your performance over a period of time, like you mentioned, if I'm on a hot streak, if I come in thinking I'm on a hot streak, all of a sudden I've turned it from a flat two-dimensional surface to a three-dimensional surface that's curved. So if I start to get on the edges, all of a sudden I'm going to slip off and get into what we call tilt. So that's ultimately the way we think about that from an emotional management perspective. Our goal as much as possible. And if you come in with the right mindset, if you come in well rested, if you come in with proper nutrition, if you come in, with enough water, having consumed enough water, if you come in, with really good trade ideas, if you come in just being grateful that you get to be a market participant today, not that you're the master of the universe or something like that, you can actually flip that grid upside down. So instead of it being, where you're more likely to slip off, you actually flip it the other way. So you're more likely to, if you get to the extremes, it's almost easier to kind of come back to that center. So that's something we did that fun video on, and it really helped me understand how to help traders continue to develop. Because one of the biggest things is that occurs, well, I'll give a story from the desk. So there's a trader trading a breakout. It was, what day was that? Oh, the Baba breakout day on the news. So today's Thursday. So this was Tuesday. So Baba had a news catalyst that was kind of a well-known catalyst already. It had been out for a couple of days, but the volume in the name was sustaining, and it was crazy. And it was like a positive breaking news catalyst and a 2-day range break to the upside. So if anybody wants to look at it, it was on 128, I think, and it was in the afternoon. And so the volume picked up on this news catalyst, and then it broke the highs of a 2-day range, and then it held there for like a little period of time. Well, we had a trader on our desk who bought it really early and then sold it while it was just kind of consolidating at the highs. And, immediately we were kind of talking about it and we were like, hey, what was going on there? And he's like, well, as soon as it started to uptick, I felt a sense of relief. Like, it was consolidating and then it started to uptick and it felt that sense of relief. And because of the specificity of the emotions of what he was feeling, he felt really good about the trade and thought it should go, right? So his expectations were really high because of the volume, right? And because it was breaking the range. And then it started to consolidate. So his expectations went from really high to all of a sudden really concerned about his position. What if this drops out? All this anxiety and everything. And then when it started to uptick, when it started to do what it should do, he had this sense of relief, right? And so we identified very quickly that exact trigger is a moment for him to actually add to the trade, not to take off. So anytime he goes through that moment of anxiety and then feels that sense of relief, it's actually a moment to add to the trade. And so he's using his emotions instead of against him now for him.
Exactly.
And I would assume the next time he's presented with that opportunity, maybe not the very next time, but I'm guessing he'll practice that.
Yep.
And I'm guessing he'll work on that. And I wouldn't be surprised if the next time that exact type situation occurs where he's in a trade, good position, goes into a consolidation phase, he gets a little anxious, then has that sense of relief as the bidders step right back in. My bet is that he would put up a really big day and probably have one of his best trades simply because he's understood that situation now and he identified exactly that emotional. People call it emotional roller coaster, but I think it's an emotional opportunity.
For
really.
sure. For sure. I think emotions they're information. And I think our relationship to them by the culture, all places are telling us somehow that they are somehow the enemy. And I'm like, no, they're everything. Because once you just exactly like you explained, that allows for that sixth sense as well. After repetitive experiences, you start to have that deep knowing because of those experiences with your emotion. But it's
And I think you have to be really specific about it and you have to have really good language around it. But that's the easiest thing to do, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
The hard thing to do is practice it.
Say that again.
The hard thing to do is practice it.
Yeah. And the increasing that vocabulary is in the moment when it's happening. So, when that's happening, we rarely want to articulate.
Yeah, that's a good point because you actually don't want to. Because if you're doing it in the moment, you're taking yourself out of the opportunity, right? You're taking yourself out of the opportunity if you're trying to find the words for it in the moment. So you want to do all this stuff in practice.
Yeah.
And ideally do it with a sense of community. So if you're practicing with other people, you're going to be able to talk through, here's how I'm feeling, and they're going to be able to share how they're feeling. And it's really interesting to hear, at different spots that actually have trading edge, right? Don't do it when you're in the middle of a chop, and nothing's happening and the market's just balancing and there's no real trading opportunity. At that point, if you're worried about your emotions, you probably just need to wait for edge, because otherwise you're tipping the scales the wrong way anyway. But
that you are, what I really hear is the support that your community offered him in that moment and the encouragement to check in on how he was feeling facilitated his insight that even relief was afoot. And that, if you don't have people who are deeply listening to you, not can judge you, make you wrong, you can speak more authentically and honestly. And that's a beautiful thing that you create that environment for the traders.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword though, because it does become a standard. So, when it goes from this environment to a standard, it becomes a little more of an expectation. And that's a tough thing for certain people to swallow. But I think it's a healthy expectation in our side. And it's become a healthy standard on the desk. So
yeah. I think it just perhaps we're moving, I think, culturally to a place where it is becoming more the standard. So I think you guys are just, ahead of the curve on that. So that's a good thing for the traders.
We'll see. I definitely know all the young bucks out there and the young ladies out there way more emotionally aware than any of us ever were. So,
they definitely are. They're being encouraged to do it. So I think they're going to have a little bit of a leg up on all of us. So with regards to finding new talent, And for anybody listening here who's like, oh, I really want to be with SMB, well, just give us some metrics so that, people can manage their expectations. And also, if there is a particular way you do want to ever hear from traders, just tell us that so they have a sense.
Yeah, I'm going to hold off on the metrics thing
Okay.
because, and I know that's a number that gets put out there and
Yeah.
and people use it as a sense of pride. For anybody listening that does want to be a trader at SMB, don't worry about anybody else. Worry about yourself and do the work for you. If you want to trade professionally, do the work for you. Don't worry about the probabilities. Don't worry about how many people are applying. Don't worry about anything else. Find really good people to trade with. Get as good as you possibly can be. And then you can always email. I think there's an application on our website, and I'm sure that somebody can put it in there. But don't worry about the numbers. Don't worry about anybody else. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Worry about what you can do so you can be the best trader you can possibly be. And if you need help with that, you can reach out. I'm sure that one of those links will have some more information. But Kurt, who's on our team, who makes all the he videos us all the time and then makes the videos and all that stuff. So he'll reach out to Kim and get the links up there. He's much better at that stuff than I am, so I stay out of that. But if you really want to get better, you can come check us out. And if you really want to join us, just focus on getting as good as you possibly can be. There are plenty of resources for people out there.
Beautiful. There's so many more questions that I have, but I promised to get you off about 6 minutes ago. So we'll pause now. Hopefully you'll come back and hopefully we'll get to do an X space and then we can take some questions from traders. But thank you so much for coming on today. This was a very powerful conversation, Jeff, and it's going to serve a lot of traders. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always fun.
It's always fun. I hope you have subscribed to the Wall Street Coach podcast. And if you haven't, it's time to do so. See you on the next podcast.